Welcome, everyone. I'm just going to give everybody a few more seconds to join. All right, we will get started in about 10 seconds here. All right, so welcome, everyone. Welcome to our SBC clients and guests joining today. There'll be people joining here as we get started, but we have a very full agenda. We have a lightning round of end user topics for you all, so I want to jump right in. This monthly webinar is brought to you as part of dataBridge's SharePoint Concierge service. I'm Andrea Skinner, and I am pleased to serve as your host and moderator today. So I'm going to share the screen here. So the agenda we have is, quite large. So I want to be brief. We will hear from Leona on the first 5 topics here that you see on the screen. We may pause, a little bit in between and talk about a use case, but otherwise, we'll kind of work through this agenda fairly quickly. So I won't read this to you. I will let this sit on the screen as I talk through just some housekeeping things. So for those of you who are not familiar with our webinar format, your mics are muted at this time, but I do encourage you to type into the chat window pane. You'll see that little call out icon at the top of your Teams pane. Just hit that chat and type in any questions as we're going through the material, and folks on our team will respond to you in that chat window. Just that will allow the presenters to continue working through the material. And then at the end of today's webinar, we will open up mics to take your questions live, where you can chat with any of the presenters, either about the topics that were brought up today or anything else that you would like to pose a question. So with that said, I will now introduce to you Leona Lamont, who's going to kick us off with the first several topics. Over to you, Leo.
All righty, everyone. So, yep, we're going to start off with the having quick access to lists and list inside of the List app in Microsoft Office 365. So let's just start off with the concept of going, let's say you're a user who engages with 5 lists on a daily basis, but those 5 lists live in 5 different locations. And as of right now, you either always have to bookmark those or click through the UI and get to each of those lists and want to engage with them. And you go, you know what? I wish there was a better way to consolidate this all into one kind of easy to bite-sized package type of idea. There is a way to do that, and we'll kind of walk through that now. So what will happen is if you're inside of Office 365, there will be the app launcher up here in the top left-hand corner. Microsoft's currently having an issue with this right this second, so there's nothing showing up on my end. But what will happen is you'll see a drop down that looks similar to this. So you will have all the Office apps that you have access to via your licensing. You're going to be looking for the one that says list. And so when you click on that, you will be taken to a page that looks similar to this one. So here, this will be all lists that you recently visited. So all these ones right here are different lists on different site collections that you have rights to. So let's say here is kind of, and as an example, I want to say, you know what, I care a lot about site structure as a list type. So I could go ahead and type into here, and let's see if it will search for me. Maybe it won't search. Let's just do a refresh real fast. Site structure. For some reason, the search box isn't working, so this might be part of the Microsoft's downtime right this second. But in essence, just to kind of walk through me with this. If you hit the enter button, it will filter all the results down here to be any of the lists that you have rights to. So in this use case right now, let's say I really care about the birthdays list and then the PTO request list. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here. So as we can see, these are all going to be all the different birthdays that we have available to us. And this list lives on the Vioscope Modern site. So I go, you know what? This is one of those lists that I really want to follow. So I can go ahead and click the little star button here. Then I will go back, and let's say I also want the PTO request. So I can come into here and I can click the little star button right here. So this allows us to easily follow these. And so if we go back to our previous page and do a refresh, we can now see these at the very top. So which means, again, I can easily kind of follow specific lists and I can easily jump into them, even though they might be living on multiple different locations. If in the future you ever go, you know what, I wish to, oops, let me go back to the list web here. If we go back to list home, if you ever go, you know what, I accidentally misclicked, I don't really want to follow this one, all you have to do is just remove this list from favorites here, and that will kind of remove it from your drop down. So again, this allows you to just easily be able to have multiple lists in one centralized location versus, again, having to navigate to multiple spots. So maybe as an admin user, there are different reports that you like to be looking at that are currently housed inside SharePoint via list. And you can say, hey, I want to have them at my fingertips versus, again, navigating to all of them. So the next subject matter that I'll go to now will be the how to easily, or sorry, notify users on document upload to a document library. So let me go ahead and pull up a document library for us. So this also as a pre-warning, this only works on Microsoft Teams sites, as in the sense of sites that are team sites, which we look normally will have the left navigation. If you are on a communication site collection, this does not work currently. So just be aware of this. This only works on team sites. And so what will happen is, let's say we upload a document. So let me grab a document from my computer real fast. Let's go down to test documents and let's just drag this document into here. So when I drag a document inside SharePoint, we'll have this little prompt that pops up that here that says notify your team. So when you click on this, this will allow you to select users or SharePoint security groups that currently have rights to this site. As of right now, I can say, you know what, I really want to notify the owners group and maybe the members group that this document has been uploaded. I can click this notify button here and it will send a notification to those users. You need to have rights to the site to be able to be granted rights to it. So again, if there is a user that you're trying to say, notify them that they have, a document has been uploaded there. If they do not have rights to the site, they will not be able to get this notification. So again, just be aware of that. You may want to use share control instead. But this control is more of just a notification to somebody versus granting them rights to something. So just be aware of this, how this control works here. Once you're satisfied with everything, you click notify, that email goes off. One kind of caveat here is that window only is limited there for a couple of moments, so you have to be kind of a little bit quick on it. It only works on individual document uploads. So which means you can't upload like 10 documents all at once and say, I want to notify all these people. It has to be individual documents, one at a time. So just be aware of that, guys, moving forward. If you ever wish to use this control, it pops up there in the top right-hand corner. You click notify, this prompt pops up. You click the notify button on when you're ready to send out those notifications. And those notifications will look pretty much identical to the shared notification. So let me see real quick if I can pull that up for us. Give me 1 second, guys. This is going to be this email here. So the email will actually kind of come from the user. So in essence, it will come from the user who is notifying it. And then we'll also kind of have like the same type of UI that if you're ever using the share control, it would look like exactly like this email here. So it'll be the link to the document and the ability to open it up. Alrighty. And that kind of concludes the section on the idea of notifying users via the upload feature. So again, if you ever want to say, hey, you know what, there's an important document I got uploaded, I want to let these 5 people know, you have an easy method to do so. Next is going to be learning how to add content types to document libraries via the modern view. So what we'll go ahead and minimize this screen right here. So let's say as an organization, let me start off with kind of conveying what a content type is for those who don't know. So content types are an idea of grouping columns to that idea. So Let's say a calendar has an event content type, which an event content type has a title, has a start date, has an end date, it has a description, category, things as such, reoccurring event and things as such. That's all underneath the idea of an event content type, so which means you can deploy that to locations. Announcements is another one where announcements will have, title, description, and expires date. You may also have different types of content types for document types. So let's say you have HR specific documents, or maybe policies or procedures or work instructions that have specific columns associated to those ideas. It allows you to quickly build those and deploy them and reuse them to your heart's desire type of idea. So in this walkthrough here, there is the capability of easily adding these to a document library. So what you would do is click on this add a column here. And at the very bottom of that panel, there will be a add a content type. So you click on that, you click the next button here, and this panel will pop up here showing you content types that are available to you on your site collection. So let's say, you know what, I really want this HR document content type to be available here and this IT document content type to be available here. I go ahead and hit the apply button. It starts adding those content types to our document library. So what will happen is we'll have more options that exist in our drop down here. And also additional views will be available to us here. So if we click this drop down now here, we can see that we have our default document content type, we have our HR document content type, and we have our IT document content type. And if we also come over to the view options, like I was saying before, we'll also have two additional views available to us. So we have the HR document and the IT. Now, when it automatically generates these views, it will also bring over the metadata columns that are on that content type. So when with the HR document content type, we have two additional columns out of the box than the two normal ones that SharePoint comes with documents. So we have department and we have document type. If we go into IT, IT doesn't have any additional columns here. So we go back to all documents. Oops, let's do a refresh. We have, again, just the out of the box kind of view here. So again, when you bring over content types, now you have the ability to say, hey, we have additional metadata columns that maybe be applicable to certain types of documents. We automatically have the ability to filter down to those content types as well automatically versus, again, having to create additional views yourselves. And so again, you also have the ability to kind of make modifications to these. If you ever want to do a quick audit of what content types you have on your list, if you scroll back down to the add column and then back down to the add a content type, you can click next, and this will give you kind of a quick breakdown of all the columns and content types that exist on your sites or on your library. So here we can see HR.content type, which will then have the name, its parent, description, and all the columns it has and what type of status those columns have. So again, we have a department, which is a choice. It's optional. It's related to the HR document content type. Same with IT. Again, with the idea of parents, you can have a hierarchy of content types that kind of inherit downwards if you ever wish to do so, but that's a little bit more complex than what we're talking about today. So again, that kind of concludes the idea of easily adding content types to your library and the additional controls that come along with adding those content types to your document library. Next, we're going to be talking about editing modern list views. So let's go ahead and pull up a nice list view real quick for us. So let's say we have a list view. And here's, data being presented to us, and we go, you know what? I want to adjust some things. I want to make things a little bit bigger. So let's say the title field here, where we can see that, after a while, there just becomes an ellipsis, and it's just like, I really want to see all the text inside of the title field. So what you can do is between each of the headers, there will always be a little kind of arrow draggable control, which allows you to adjust the size of things. So if I say, you know what? On average, titles will never be longer than this. So let's make this a little bit wider. I think Arthur should probably be moved around to here. Maybe status has a higher priority than that. And maybe content type should be here. The date should be a little bit further on down the line. We can kind of, again, adjust these sizes to what you think is best. And so, as for me right this second, I go, everything looks good. So if I refresh the page, everything still looks good to me. However, those changes are only because of our client side. So until you actually submit these changes, which we'll show how to do in a second, these are only being applied to you. So if you make a bunch of modifications on the behalf of somebody else, everything looks good to you. Maybe you want them to come over your shoulder before you actually submit them. That's fantastic, but you will need to submit them at some point. So what you will want to do is come down to the view drop down here. And then what you will want to do is hit the Save View As. And when this pops up, do not change the text value. If you change the text value here, it will create a brand new view and still keep the old version of the view as its original state. So if you do wish to create a brand new view, you can change the name now. But in this case, we're going to just be more of the idea of updating the one that we have here. So if I click this Save button now everyone else who ever comes to this view can now also see this. So this gives you the capability of, again, adjusting column sizes, adjusting order very easily versus going through the old UI, which you would change the order via like a drop down, which is far more tedious than what maybe you're used to. So again, if you ever want to can make an additional adjustment, so let's say I go into another view, this one only has a couple of columns here, and I just want to change the order of them, adjust the size of them. There is minimum widths that exist here, so you can't get too small. So just be aware of that, but you can always get bigger and make your page kind of have a horizontal scroll bar eventually, as you can see down here, if we start to make things really wide. Now, again, I don't know if you would ever want to have a view this wide, but this is available to you. Now, again, as a user, until I hit this Save View As, it won't be submitted for everybody else. This is just on my side. There is a caching period that exists, so which means that this will eventually just kind of fade away if you do not save it. So just be aware of that as well, guys. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and move on to my next section, which will be
And
oh,
Leo,
good.
would you by chance be able to also show the how to what columns you want to show there if you wanted to add or remove
Oh, yeah,
columns?
definitely. So there will also be the capability. So, let's say here, as of right now, we just saw that we had a lot more metadata in the all items view. And we go, you know what? In this new export view, we actually really need 3 more columns or so. So if you ever need to add any additional columns to your view, you can go ahead and click this add a column here. And then down here, there's going to be a show or hide column. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And this will give us the option of selecting almost every single column in our list or library. Now, again, there are occasional one-offs in which actually there are some system columns that are hidden from this view, which you can go add them via another control. But I go 99% of the time, you will have all the data that you care about via this panel here. So if I said, you know what, I really want the status, I really want the content type, and I really want the tag color to be available in this view, I select them. If you also wanted to, you can drag and drop these in this little panel as well to adjust the order. So if I said, you know what, I think the content type should really be number 1, color tag, we'll put this here. I can hit the apply button if I want. You can also manually click these if you want to adjust them one at a time. If you're not a big fan of drag and dropping and you want to go, click through these, you can do that as well. So once I'm happy with that, I hit the apply button. And now I get that view here. Again, as I said before, make sure you save that view with all your changes. And now the view has been saved, which means now everybody else can come in here and see these changes as well. Alrighty, so again, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one, which is going to be the how to create a blog with modern SharePoint pages. So let's go ahead and pull up additional control. So let's say you're an organization that has specific types of news or posts or blogs that you wish to kind of surface in the specific web parts or the news feed specifically. So Microsoft, previously you might have been experiencing, maybe SharePoint 2010 or 2013, used to have blog sites that allowed you to create blogs and have them surface into a specific web part. Microsoft kind of walked away from that, so we're going to kind of show you a way to do that in modern. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to start off by going to Site Contents and then navigating down to our site pages. And then what we will want to do once we're at Site Pages, we'll want to have a column here to create the categorization of the differentiating from a normal news post or a blog post or any sort of categorization that you want. So here, we're going to go ahead and create a new column. We're going to go ahead and create a choice column. Go next. We're going to call this one page. We call this page category. And we're going to call this, maybe blog. Maybe we'll make a news. And then maybe we'll just do something a little bit more fun, something else. And then we'll make it a choice field. Let's start this off with everything being in news. We can adjust this to wherever we want, and we'll kind of walk through this way of how you also template this. So we'll go ahead and hit the save button here. So now we have a new column type. So let's go back to our home page. And let's say we wanted to make a new kind of template here. So we'll go ahead and start off with create a news post. We're going to just cheat a little bit and just start off with the basic visual one. So we're going to go ahead and hit create post. We're going to call this one, we'll call it blog template. And so let's say I come in here and I do all the modifications that I want to have this be the starting point of my blogs. So I make all those modifications. Everything looks fantastic to me. I'm kind of ready to submit this. So what we will want to do, but first we'll want to go to our page details. And in our properties panel, we'll have that new column be here. So let's say, again, we're going to be using it as a blog template. So we click on blog as a category that we'll want to be using for this page moving forward. And we kind of click out of that. So now it's been saved. So let's say everything looks great. I'm going to go ahead and say post this news. It's going to be posting it. And then what we will want to do is go find this promote button here. And then once we click this promote button, this will kind of give you a bunch of different options. The one that we really care about is this save as page template. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. It's going to give us a name. So we're going to call this baseline blog. And we're going to say save page as template. And again, we're just going to check our template details real quick to make sure that the property is still flagged as blog. It is. So I'm going to say save page as template. And now, if I go back to my home page and let's say we make a new post, now we have the option of selecting our blog template here. We create a brand new post and we'll call this one, hello world. And we're going to go ahead and post this. So, now we have the capability of tagging our pages. So how do we actually apply this to kind of a web part to surface those specifically tagged pages? So we're going to go back to our home page. We're going to go ahead and edit our web part here. And then we're going to click on this web part. So this is specifically a news web part. So let me just go ahead and make a brand new one. So we're going to type in news. So this is a web part that specifically pulls in news articles. And then what we will want to do is go into the property of it. So we click the little pencil icon, which opens up the property panel here. We're going to say specifically this site. So this control is going to work specifically for this site versus all sites or selected sites are recommended for your current user. There are additional controls you can do elsewhere, which are a little bit more complex than what we want to cover today. So we're going to keep it simple. So we're going to use this site here. And then down here in the filter section, there would be page properties. So we select on that. We select the page category, which is that column that we just made a minute ago. And then we're also going to say we want to show blog specific pages here. And then once we're kind of happy with that, now only blog pages that have been flagged as blogs will show up here. Now, there might be some level of cleanup, again, with the idea of how templates are initially generated. You need to post it initially before it can be flagged as a template. So you might want to navigate back to your site pages library and potentially purge your template page that you made here. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick for ourselves. So we're going to go ahead and just purge that. All your page templates that are existing inside of this new, again, post here, these ones exist inside of this templates folder here. So just be aware, again, if somebody made a mistake and busted one of your templates, you never made to make modifications to them, this is where they're going to live at. So if you ever want to change the names of them or make any other modifications, you can make those modifications here. So that allows us, again, now to automatically be pulling in specific news articles that have been flagged as a property that we're providing, in this case, blog. So then as an organization, you can create specific types of news articles that are catered to specific ideas, or maybe you have additional flags to surface specific types of news into different web parts or different parts of your site. So this is a control that is available to you guys now. If you want to start playing around with it, go right ahead. So that concludes that last section of my section here. So I'll pass it back on to Andrea, and then Andrea will pass it on to the next presenter.
Thank you so much, Leo. Yeah, that's great, great info. And I hope you guys learned some handy tips to make your SharePoint site a little more user-friendly. Next up, we will hear from Dylan on the next three topics, or two topics, sorry. I will say that, for those blog pages, you can save that as a template and reuse that format. You can do that with multiple things, and maybe a use case could be, let's just say you create pages that are focused maybe towards employee resources if you're an HR admin. And then, if you want to tell hero web parts maybe on departments, you can at certain times of the year even, force your employee resource maybe for benefits or re-enrollment or so forth. You could push those out to sites for a period of time using those tags. So the possibilities are endless, but we hope that you are able to put some of those to use in your site. All right, over to you, Dylan.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so today I'm going to start out today's presentation going over some of the different commenting features in SharePoint. Some of them you've probably seen, in just working with lists and things like that, or pages. And then I might show one or two things that you haven't seen or haven't tried using, or you didn't know that, how those comments work. So what I'm going to do first to show you, I've actually got a list open. So I'm going to start off with a list. And so I've got my list open here. So just a couple little things about the commenting features for a list. I can see this little icon. It's got the little plus when there isn't a comment, so I could add a new one. And it shows the comment with the quotations there, which would mean that there is a comment to read there. So if I click on that, it's opening the little comments panel, and this sits on top or next to the item itself. So you're not actually editing the item whenever you add comments here. So a few things about it. So if I was to, just type in a comment, I could just type in text there and leave a comment. But one nice feature is the @mention in a similar way to like Twitter or something like that. You can @mention someone, and that'll actually send a notification to them about that comment. The list, who's sending it, what's the comment, what's the list or the item. And so it gives you all the details without having to set up any type of automation. So I could say, check this out, please make an update or whatever I would want to say. That's one nice thing. So I've seen some people using this for a certain kind of requests. Maybe you have like a simple form that doesn't have a bunch of intense automation set up for it to pass it around to different people automatically. So in that sense, you could potentially use something like this for maybe a low risk process where you just want to mention someone, hey, can you come and make an update to this or check this out or whatever it might be. Or if you have something that's just a work in progress, and so you want to have that interaction. But the commenting does apply to multiple areas of your site. So this is just an example of the list. And because I mentioned myself, I will show you just a example of that notification as well before I move on. So I've got a @mentioned notification here. So it just lets me know who mentioned me, what's the list and all of that, what's the comment, and it'll allow me to, click on it and go to the item. So that's just, some built-in functionality for that. And so I will mention, one other thing about, this commenting. If you see this on here and you don't want it, so two things is one, you can just, remove the pane if you're using, this details pane. So you can always expand or collapse that. And there also is a setting in the list settings to disable it for a list as well. So with that in mind, I think that'll cover the list side. I'm going to move over to one of the other spots that you can make updates. And let me actually show you on a page. So let me bring over my page. So I've just got a page pulled up here. And just to let you know, you may have seen this on some pages where it might be turned on. So down here at the bottom, it's turned on for this page. So let's say you have a draft news post. It could be a news post, a normal page, whatever it might be, blog post. If you wanted someone to work on it, you could do the same thing. You could mention someone. But this one does have a few extra features as well, just to show you. So I could say nice work. And you could also leave a like or reply to that, whatever that might be. And so you could have threads going in there, or leave a new comment altogether. So you can have these little threads, and you can like your posts and stuff like that. But let's say you just wanted that on while the page is being worked on, just to get some feedback. And before you publish it, you want to turn that off. So you could come in. I just edited the page, and then I could just turn this off. And once it's turned off, you can always turn it back on and get your comments back. The same ones are stored there. So just lets you know that you can always turn it off or on. You don't have to worry about losing that conversation. If you, are concerned about that, you can always turn it back. And so and then the same way when you do the @mention, that'll send an alert as well. So it's just got a few extra little options there for the page, and that applies, across the board. So now I'll move on to another part which some of you may be familiar with, but I'll probably show something here that maybe you haven't used or some of you haven't used. So I've actually got an Excel document open, and so a few options here. I can always hit the little comments tab at the top. And so this is an Excel document, just to let you know, this is an Excel document in a document library in SharePoint. So I've got this open here, and you can see when I hit that comments tab, I can see the current comments. And in a similar way, you can do the replies and the @mentions, but something you might notice here, so when I click in on this comment, I can see this box is highlighted. So if I was to click into another box, I can actually highlight bits of content and leave a comment for those zones. So I could @mention and say, hey, can you make some updates, whatever it might be. So I'm going to ask someone to make some updates to a few rows here. And then something that you can do as well. So when you @mention someone, instead of just sending them an alert, you can also do this assign to feature. So this is something that you'll see in Word and Excel specifically. So if I hit that assign button, what that's gonna do. So I've actually created a little assignment task, and I've done it for myself here. But basically, so one nice thing about this is, if you have multiple people working on a document, you're going to see who's working on the document, and they're going to get a notification. And then also, one other feature is anytime someone has a task assigned in SharePoint across the board, whether you're flagging an item in Outlook, or you're using Microsoft Planner, which is another app, or you're assigning someone a task through here, those will all roll up in your to-dos. And so I'll show you that real quick. So what I've done is I've already got the to-do app open, and you'll be able to find that in your app pane if you have access to it. It's one way to get to it at least, or you could just hit the link that, this to-do.office.com. So anyways, I've got this open here. And so this is just this app here, the to-do app. It just rolls up in Office 365, all your different to-dos, all of your flagged items from Outlook, whatever that is, all your planner items, projects. So it is nice if you are using that kind of stuff heavily. You depending on which app, it might funnel into one of these different tabs here. So it's a nice way to get a little roll up from all your different apps. And so this to-do app, and I've got it set to dark mode, just so you know. So if you were to want to access this, it'll probably be light mode by default. So yeah, one other way you can also access your planner and to-dos. So I'm hitting it through the browser here, through the apps that you can see in the waffle icon. But one other way is also through Teams. So a lot of the SharePoint content does come in through Teams as well, and various apps in Teams. So just to show you, in Teams here, I've actually got it's called Task by Planner and To Do. And so it's within your Teams, if you're using that heavily, it is just an option where you can also, all this content is getting rolled up through this app here in Teams to see all your different stuff. And I could always check something off or create a new one. So just to show you that. So I'll come back here just to let you know I've got a few different things that I've highlighted and @mentioned myself. And let me see if I've got that particular email open. So I did get my notification. So yeah, I'm going to bring this onto the screen and show you here. So So I've highlighted some of that content, and that mentioned me and gave myself an assignment. And so what it's done is some of those fields there, those columns that I had highlighted, it's actually showing them in this email. It's showing, what that person mentioned to me. It's showing a link to the document, the name of it. And then something else you can do, which is a nice little feature, is let's say someone's asking for you to provide some feedback. So maybe they don't actually even want you to make a change. They've just highlighted some content. What do you think about this? Do you approve this, or whatever it might be? Well, right in your email, you can just, add a comment, you know, looks good to me. I would update, whatever, if it was me. So, I could leave a comment, say insert. So that's actually going to add a reply into the spreadsheet itself. So I can just see it auto updated there in lifetime, so I didn't have to refresh the document. So it looks like I was just right in the document replying to it, but I did that from my email. So that is a nice option, so you could, that's an option without any additional configuration. That's something that's built into Excel and Word. And of course, you can always hide that pane as well if you don't want to see that if you're working. It's just that comments. And there also is, instead of using the comments one, you can use the note one as well and leave notes. But I think the comments one is pretty nice because you don't have to mention someone. You could also just highlight some content and give some, provide some additional details, or you could use that note pop-up as well. But so just to show you some of the options there, and they're adding new stuff in all the time regarding this. And different ways you can see all this stuff in your different feeds and roll-ups, things like that. So I think that's going to cover, yeah, so that I covered all the page, the list, and the documents for the commenting. So I think that's going to cover the this particular topic regarding comments. And I'll move on to my next topic. So let me go ahead and pull onto the screen. So the next I'm going to talk a bit about the page authoring improvements and some additional tips and tricks. And what I'm going to be starting out with is going over some multilingual settings. So one option we have, so let me just open up my homepage and I'll start from here. So I've got a communication site open. And I actually already have it set to Spanish at the moment. Now this, I'll explain why it's still showing English, but basically what I've done is I've started working on, two different versions. These are actually their own page. So if I click over, you can see in the URL, it says the ES there. So what I've done is I'm creating an alternate page that can be, you can actually assign someone to be a translator for that page. So if you wanted to provide maybe, maybe using something like an auto translator is not what you're looking for. Some people that have that option, actually in your settings of your profile, you can set your language to be something else from a different region. But just to show you this option here, so let's say you have content on your homepage on your different sites, and you just want to provide a few different options for a few languages, that might be pretty common with your company. So what you could do, and maybe the auto translator doesn't work, you want to provide additional context in a different language, maybe even slightly different content, you are able to change those pages so they can both be the home page and someone could switch between them. So I'll walk through how you can set that up. So basically what I'm going to do is I am going to, so I'm going to go to site contents, and from here, that's how I'm going to get the site settings for the time being. So I'll go to the site settings. So on this page here, I'm going to go to my language settings. What I'm going to do is, this is just where we can turn it on. So here you can turn on enable translation into multiple languages. And what I've done is I've started to work on a Spanish one here, and I've assigned myself to be the translator. But you could assign different people to be the translator for that particular language. So I could select a different language and assign somebody else to be the translator for that particular language on the site. And so this is a manual. This is all related to that manual translation feature. So you can assign someone. They'll get that email that they're assigned as a translator if updates need to be made, or the English update, changes to the English page are done. It'll let the Spanish person know to work on that page. And And then just to show you in advanced settings here, you can choose to go ahead and anytime changes are made to the English one, or whichever is your default, to go ahead and override the translated pages, so that what you could do is it goes ahead and updates all the content, and then the translator just has to come in and just, rework those pages after it's been overwritten. So that's just to show you what that feature is there. You can turn that off or on. It's off by default. Both of these are. But once you turn it on, so now I've got these two. If I come back to my homepage, that's where this little drop down is here. So I can switch over to the English one. You can see actually my English page looks different. So that's what that's allowing in this drop down here, is to have that alternate version of the homepage on your communication site or any page. And then just a few other things you can change as well. You can change the navigation, all the, the title of the site. A few other little settings can be translated through this feature as well. Now I'm not getting my little gear icon at the moment, but that, that's all in the settings under site information. You could say to translate to Spanish, now that we've added Spanish as one of the languages. So that's how it can be done, and it'll be similar across the board, where it's just going to let you do some different translations. So what I also want to show you here, so one of the newer sides of the translation, let's see if it's going to be working for now. So as you're typing, obviously I'm not, this is nothing here, but what'll happen is, because I'm on the Spanish version, there are some different proofreading options. So I'm using the the Edge browser, and so it's going to start providing proofreading, little pop-up suggestions, things like that for your for your content, and it's going to be showing me some suggestions actually in whichever language it's supposed to be. And so this will be something they're starting to add in. Some of these you may not be seeing yet. This is all on the newer side, so they're going to be improving this and adding more functionality regarding this into here, just to help you actually type this stuff out if you needed it. So I can see it's in Spanish there. So and then it starts off in draft mode, and when it's ready, you can go ahead and publish that page. Yeah, so regarding the multilingual, I think that's going to cover the multilingual side of things. Now, there's a few other little authoring tricks I wanted to show you guys as well. For people who are working on pages. So one other thing I wanted to talk about here, there is a change coming to this hero web part. I didn't personally notice it yet on mine, but this is regarding just the rendering of images for consistency. I think they want the images to actually be either one of their stock images or one of their generated images, or one that you upload to the site. Now, it did seem I was able to it still did let me do a web search for an image here. I don't know if that just means that they have a certain set of web images that they're allowing, but I did notice they still have this web search tab. So maybe that will be there. It'll just be stuff that's actually technically internal. I'm not sure, but that's just the change with the hero web part is, and they're making some improvements to it. So that's one of those little changes there. Probably not a big deal for most people. And one other thing I'll just mention too about the hero web part, just a little trick. You'll notice this hero web part, this particular layout, you may have seen this on certain templates out there, but this is actually using the layer layout, and I can always switch back to the tiles. So if you see that layout, or you're using a layout and you want to try some different ones, you do have the different tiles, or you can switch to the layers, which gives you this additional description box here. So you can always switch between however many different layers you want, or back to tiles, and it saves all of that data, just to let you know. All right, so yeah, so that's that's all I have for the hero web part. There's just, I think, two other little tricks I wanted to show while we're working here on the page. So if you are you're building out a page, whether you're working on a news post or a new page, that's going to be published, whether it's for a homepage or just an additional department page, whatever it is. I wanted to show a little shortcut here. Some of you may not have seen. So if I click into here, so if you're typing out text, maybe this is an FAQ or something like that, or you want to link to other page, almost like a little wiki, wiki style page where you're showing people how to do stuff, how to navigate to other pages on the site, things like that. In the free text there is this little shortcut. I can actually do little brackets here, and it just pulls up a little drop down to automatically link to another page on the site. So just to show you, that's a little shortcut. So as you're typing, you do that little double brackets, and then you can choose another page on there, and I can always come back and change that link as well. So just to show you a little shortcut there for those that are working on the page. And then yeah, one other one I wanted to show as well. So let me go ahead and publish. So for like non-home pages, for instance, another little feature. Oh yeah, and I'll touch one last thing here. So if you are going to use this translation, once it's set up on the site, any page that you want to have a translated version, you'll notice once that setting's enabled, you can click this translation tab up here and go ahead and spin up a draft for a different language. And then you just hit the view there, and then it spins up a new draft for that page. So if a new page gets created, you turn on this feature for that site or whatever it is, you can hit that translation option will be there. You can go ahead, depending on which languages you have enabled, you can go ahead. I've already got it. I've already got one published for Spanish, but it would just let me spin up a new draft for that page. So that's why you'll see that if it's enabled on your site, the translation in your ribbon here. Just one other thing up here in this little ribbon I want to show you. Some of you may be aware of it, some of you may not. The promote option here. So if you have a page and you're wanting to throw something real quick into a news web part, or whatever it might be, just a few options you have there. So if you're working on a page, you want to get that page out there. I've noticed people using their news web part for this. They have a new page that they want people to come to. You can switch that to post it as a news on the site. So it's just a quick way to throw it into the news if you have access to do that, as someone who's an author of pages and things like that. And there's that option as well, a quick option to throw it into the navigation. So just to show you a few little additional shortcuts as you're working on these pages and setting them up. So even if it was you've got this new language you want to promote, the new Spanish page, you could throw that in the promoted, hey, we have a new English translated page or whatever language it is, or Spanish. So just to show you a couple options there. And with that in mind, I think that'll cover everything I have, and I will hand it back over or to the next person. And thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Dylan. So I know that we are coming up to the top of the hour, and we will close out today's webinar hearing from Rick Toner. So take us away, Rick.
Hi, everyone. Bear with me one second as I switch on my sharing of my presentation. Sorry about that. There we go. So today we're going to actually talk about the first one because, of course, with Microsoft upsetting us with our features that we actually have inside SharePoint, one of the simplest features that you actually have is to just rename your site within 2 clicks to be able to change the name on what you would display. But I'm still going to show you other ways to do it, even though that's not available. So for everybody, if you didn't know, as long as you're an owner or an editor of a site, that little gear that you normally have up in the top of your page, if you click on it and then site information and just click that, you'll see that this pane comes up. And one of those things right there is the site name. If you notice, all you have to do is just change it. You hit save and it's done. A lot of times everybody just skips over everything and looks at the bottom down here at the site settings. That's the first of 2 ways to do it. I actually still want to show you the other way so that you can actually see that we can still do things. There's the other way if you didn't know how to get in easily. So again, my gear's missing up here. So I'm going to go to content just to get to site content real quick and just click over here to site settings. And one thing I do want to show you that's interesting is if you're at the top level site, which is called the site collection, the root site, and then if I come in here, if you notice, I can change the display name right here of the site just by doing this, but I don't have a URL in here. That is going to happen every single time when you're at a root site collection. If you're at a subsite in any of your subsites, if you actually go back in and go to your site settings in there, you'll notice that in this one, you can actually change right here the actual URL, the sub URL, which is going to be part of another topic we're going to talk about in a second. But I want to be able to show you that here, you can change this in here and you can change your URL in here instantly and it affects it right away. So if I look up here up top, it already says test 123. So that the URL is available going into the look and feel over here whenever you're at subsites. but that's actually just, it's a simple one that we normally have for everybody just up here in the gear. But today, Microsoft decided to actually just make all of our lives more difficult. So that's the first one. Let me go over here and let's talk about the second one. So the second one deals with site collection renames, where you're going to change the URL or the name of a site or of a site collection. This has to be done with either a global administrator or a SharePoint administrator. They're the ones that can actually go in there and change the top level sites. We'll go there in a second, take a look. So the kind of types of sites that you can change names on are your Microsoft 365 group connected team sites. You can do your modern sites that are not connected to groups, your communication sites, and your classic sites. So your old sites you used to have. Things that you also have to remember is you can't change a name of or a URL of a site on a site, and I don't have this in here, I don't think, which is actually one that is connected to no, you actually can. I take a hub. Sorry, it's connected to a hub site. You can't change a home hub site one. Forgot to put that in here. I talked about it, but didn't put it there. But so if one of the sites has had publishing enabled before, which is an old feature for Classic and then turned off, you can't actually rename those URLs based off that. And if your site contains more than 15 million documents, it won't let you change it because of the pretty much the amount of performance and everything. So some things to remember also is it takes about 10 minutes. It can take up to 10 minutes to actually take effect. The second thing is whenever you rename your site, you're actually going to get a redirect automatically so that if people were coming to your old URLs, they'll get the new one right away, which is or within that 10 minutes. So it is a nice feature that you don't lose someone that has come in and you're worried about them not being able to go to stuff. So let's go over here. I'm actually in the SharePoint administrator part. If you notice right here, I'm at active sites. When I look at my active sites, all I have to do is come down here. And if I click on it, this is the title. If you click here, you end up going to the site, which is the URL. But if you click on the title, or if you just check mark it, either way, if you click on it, it brings up that pane right away. If you do it this way, you have to actually, when you check mark it, you have to go here to edit. That brings up that pane. So either way gets you to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to see where it says right here, this is a site address. I'm going to turn around and come in here. I'm going to hit edit. So this is actually a 2-for-1 that you guys get on this. So I'm going to change this to say this. So it tells me right here that URL is available, which I'm going to hit save. And then the great thing is it's going to say, hey, do you want to also change the name of the site? So it actually gives you the ability. It does both of them for you at one shot, where it's going to come right in and I don't have to back out. So I'm going to go and hit change this to say Rick. And at this point, it's saving. And then I'm going to show you here in the top right. If you notice when you're in here, you'll see that these are recent actions. This is actually telling me that when the name is changed on the site. Sometimes it's quick. You can see right here, the title went instantly, but the URL itself is still happening. I'm going to refresh real quick. Like I said, some of these are fairly quick and they just happen. Others will take more time. So right here, if I click on it over here, it still says Sam. In a few moments, it actually will change on it. I'll come back and check that in a minute. But this will give you the ability, like I said, inside your site collections to actually just come in and change your sites. Now, the crazy thing is we just changed the name on here. Let me show you one other thing. So, and I don't know if I could show this till, okay, it's still in the point of a rename, so I'm going to wait on that. But the other issue is when you rename a site, you run into a problem, which is once that site is renamed, there is a hidden redirect. Microsoft doesn't let us go through the interface right now and actually create redirects. You can't delete a redirect from here. You have to do that through PowerShell. It's a very simple command, but you would have to actually, if you're trying to clean up and remove stuff, you would actually do it through that point. I'm going to see one last thing just to show you. It should be done by now. There we go. Okay, so it's finished. So this is the experience you'll get if you come back in, and if I wanted to change it back to what it was, that's still saying it's doing its thing. I'll show you this. If I come over here and refresh, you'll see that it actually just changed from Sam to say Rick. So it changes the URL and it redirects you to it. Nobody really loses any features on this. Nobody notices many differences. The redirects do work well. But let me try. I'm trying one more time because I want to show you. Okay. So the other thing I want to show you is if I went back in here and tried to change it back to Sam, it would actually come back and say that site name is already in use and you can't use it. So that would give us it kind of just reminds us that there are a hidden redirect. So if you don't see a site normally, it's normally because of something like that. You probably just need to get up with an administrator or somebody that's got PowerShell and get them to go through and actually dump out all the different URLs that are used, and they can tell you what type of site it is. And most likely it's going to have a rename template. So let's talk about the last one. This one's going to be a really an overall, what we're talking about is the domain. So let's say your organization turned around and you came in with a domain, and since you started your domain, you're like, okay, so it says contoso.sharepoint.com. The problem is someone turned around and said, I really, really hate that name. We wanted to use a different name. Now Microsoft gives you the ability that you can actually rename your Office 365 URL for your SharePoint and everything else that's used. The problem is it's a one-time thing. So please remember when you do this, you can't continue to do this. You can only do it one time. There are limitations on it. You'll see on here that it talks about GCC High doesn't have it right now. And this is all because I think of legal issues with what they're doing, and those kind of tenants are actually normally behind a little bit because of security. Like I said, you can rename once, you get a redirect that you automatically keep your original redirect for 1 year, so the original domain that you had is still yours, so that your end users have a chance to actually come in and adjust it. We talked about the rename, and then also I want to actually talk about if you can't turn around and change it back. So once you change it, you're stuck with that one. So it is a one-time thing. Just be very careful what you do on there. So let me actually show you real quick. I'm not going to be, so a change, just to let you know, takes up to 24 hours. And at the lowest amount, you schedule your renames on these. But I want to actually show you a setting it's a hidden setting that they have, which is when you actually go in, and in the article, Microsoft has it, but you just have to make sure you read it. If I'm actually in here in the tenant, I'll just see what I normally have. This is a sample tenant. There's a special URL that's aka.ms, and it's SPO rename add domain. If I actually go to that, that's going to take you to your Azure portal itself and gets you to the custom domain names, which a lot of times people can't find, but it'll take you right to it. You'd come in here, you add in your full domain. So if I do this and go, is it on Microsoft? And if I do that, it's going to tell me a lot of times. Yeah, I'm not going to add it right now, because if I add it, it's going to tell me that, hey, I'm taking up a space for someone else's, and most likely it's going to error on me and saying it's already used anyway. But this is when you come in here, add the domain. That's the next step you have to do before you can actually add your URL that you actually have. And then the one last thing is there is a PowerShell script that it's fairly simple to do, but for anybody that needs to do it or whatever, it's just a single line in here that you would have that is a start tenant migration right here. It's a tenant rename. You would schedule the date when you wanted it, and right here with the new URL it's going to use on here, and then it'll actually run it. And then you also have some other commands in here. You can do a stop it. So while you're doing a schedule, you can turn around and cancel it if it hasn't started. The other is you can get back a status of where you stand on the current process. Once it's finished, the status will drop off, I think, within 30 days. So if you check your status afterwards, you won't have any. But at that point, I think I've covered everything. I will hand this back over to you, Andrea.
Thanks so much, Rick. So that concludes the learning portion of today's webinar. In just a moment, we'll segue into kind of the open mic Q&A time. If you do have to drop off, this would be a great place to do that. And so I just want to say thank you for joining us today, and please join us again next month. We do these webinars monthly as part of our SPC service that we offer, which is really just a proactive learning and hey, heads up, changes are coming, way for us to stay in touch with you and make sure that you're preparing for new rollouts in your tenant. And so for guests who are going to stick around for the Q&A, if you will look at the instructions on the screen, you'll see how to raise your hand, and that will give Christy a cue to unlock your mic, and you'll be able to ask questions to us there. So just kind of click on that reactions up in the top and then raise your hand. So thank you, Jared. Thank you, Cody. It's great having you with us today. Thank you, Alex. Again, the recording from today's session is going to be available to you, as well as additional resources that we will upload to your tenants. April, yes, the recording will be available. Thank you, Tracy. We'll just hang out for a minute, see if we have any questions. If not, we will conclude until we meet with you next month.
It seems that Tracy has their hand up.
All right, go ahead, Tracy. Christy, are you able to unlock that mic?
I think that she'll still have to unmute herself. It was
Right.
initially disabled, and then you have to still unmute.
You have to
Okay,
unmute yourself. There you
There you
go.
go.
We can hear you, Tracy.
Mute was grayed out. Okay. Just a quick question about your sessions. So do you have different types of sessions, like different topics, or the same ones, or you kind of switch up?
Different every month. Yeah, that's a great
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, this particular session, webinar was a lightning round. So we did lots of short topics. We also do kind of more lengthy topics where we may only have 5 topics, but they're longer. And so we have all kinds.
Okay. So do we just go on your site, or do you send people that join these sessions updates and stuff, like when you have sessions?
Yeah, we do. We send out email invites, and then there'll be a registration page where you can come and sign up for that, and then you'll get all the reminders.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Great
Thank
session,
you.
by the way. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation today. Appreciate that. We'll hang out just for about another 30 seconds, see if we have any other hands raised. I want to say thank you for to the team at dataBridge as well. You guys did great work today. All right, well, I don't see any other hands raised, so we will go ahead and conclude today's session. Thank you all once again. We appreciate your time with us. Until next month. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care, everyone.